Japan warns citizens in China to be extra cautious as Taiwan tensions rise and anti-Japan sentiment grows. The embassy advises avoiding crowds, staying alert and respecting local customs as the US pulls a missile system from Japan amid the dispute. North Korea has accused Seoul of secretly advancing a long-cherished ambition to progress nuclear weapons. The accusations comes after South Korea's government announced that it finalized an agreement to build nuclear-powered submarines with the United States. India's Commerce and Industry Minister Piyush Goyal has signaled that the US and India are making progress on the trade agreement. This comes amid the ongoing long-standing trade disputes between the countries over tariff barriers. A week after the Delhi blast in India's capital, Delhi claimed 15 lives. A self-recorded and undated video of the accused bomber, Dr. Umar, has emerged. The video shows Umar talking about suicide bombing and martyrdom. Britain's MI5 security service has warned members of parliament about attempts by Chinese agents to collect information and influence activity. The warning comes after prosecutors in October said they had to abandon the trial of 2 British men charged with spying for China. China issued a strong protest to Washington over a $330 million US sale of F-16 and C-130 spare parts to Taiwan, saying the move violates the One China principle. Defense spokesman Zhao Qiongjiang said Beijing is very dissatisfied, accusing the United States of interfering in China's internal affairs. South Korea has agreed to work with the United Arab Emirates on the US-backed Stargate project to build a new massive artificial intelligence data campus in the Gulf country. The deal was announced during South Korean President Lee Jae-myung's visit to the UAE for a summit. We start this hour in Europe, and the Kremlin has not received any response from Ukraine regarding Russia's peace initiatives, according to presidential spokesman Dmitry Peskov. Peskov added that Ukraine has not shared any information about its readiness to resume negotiations with Moscow. President Zelensky announced he will travel to Turkey on November the 19th to advance talks on a potential Ukrainian settlement. Ukrainian officials plan to present their ideas to international partners and discuss resuming prisoner swaps. Details on meetings and proposals have not been disclosed yet, however. Meanwhile, US Special Envoy Steve Witkoff is also expected to visit Turkey to meet with Zelensky as part of these discussions. The Kremlin says it will await the outcome of the talks. Okay, we're now joined by Major General Dr. Rajan Kochar. He is a senior strategic and international affairs expert, and he joins us live from New Delhi. Thank you very much for joining us, Dr. Kochar, here on NewsX World. Of course, these diplomatic updates come in the backdrop where Russia is making advances in the Donetsk region. However, the Kremlin citing and giving a quite aggravated response, saying that Ukraine has not shared any information when it comes to readiness about negotiations. How do we see these talks on Wednesday moving forward? Of course, President Zelensky is visiting Turkey, a country that has held these peace talks between Russia and Ukraine previously throughout the years. Do you see there making any progress, given that Russia reportedly has such of an upper hand on the battlefield?
Very interesting because there are 2 aspects to it. First is the stance of Kremlin with regard to the negotiations, and they are trying to give a political message, because basically it's a political messaging which is taking place now, saying that Kremlin is not actually coming to the table, and Zelensky is not coming to the table, and Zelensky is not negotiating. That is point number one. And point number two is that what kind of a dialogue are we expecting? Because Zelensky is quite firm that he will not recognize uh, the capture of land which has already been done by the Russians, and as giving it or as accepting it as a territory lost. So the genuine concern of the Ukrainian is that we are prepared to discuss of Russian withdrawal from our lands. To what extent are they going to withdraw? In what areas are they going to withdraw? So they want to discuss on this. As far as the Russians are concerned, there are certain red lines which the Russians have drawn. And they have very clearly told Zelensky that any talks which govern a return of territory is not acceptable to them.
Yes.
So last time also, if you remember, they had only agreed on the exchange of prisoners, and that exchange of prisoners was done. So what Ukraine is trying to get across these talks is Ukraine is saying that first agree for a ceasefire. And after you have agreed on the ceasefire, then we can discuss all these land related issues, sovereignty related issues. But Russia is not relenting on that, because Russia says that a ceasefire can only happen when Ukraine agrees on all its terms and conditions. So there is bound to be a disagreement, I feel, here. And Trump's statement also does not give us much hope, because Trump is saying repeatedly that Putin is very, very adamant and he's not agreeing to stop this war. And what we are seeing on ground also, look at the ground offensive, look at the intensity of the offensive, because the winters are approaching in, and the Russians also know that they must strike all the energy centers, all the power centers, and they are trying to demolish all these areas so that the maximum pressure is there on the Ukrainian people, and they in turn pressurize Zelensky to come on the table and accept the Russian demands. So this is a psychological war. I feel that it is a war of the minds which is happening right now, because they are saying, passing on the buck to the Ukrainians, saying that Ukrainians are not willing to discuss. So therefore, I personally, if I'm analyzing these issues, I'm of the opinion that
Yes.
not much headway is going to come out of these talks.
Yes, Major General Kochar, do stay with us as we have further updates coming out of the conflict coming for our viewers next up. And Poland's Prime Minister has said that an explosion on a railway line near the Ukraine border was an unprecedented act of sabotage and vowed to catch those responsible. He also stated that the actions of Russian services are escalating across Europe and confirmed that Poland is working on using military resources to protect key infrastructure, including the railways. Tusk further revealed that 2 Ukrainians working for Moscow are suspected of carrying out the sabotage, though Moscow denies any involvement. He added that one of the suspects had been sentenced in absentia by a court in Lviv for the same. The blast occurred on the line between Warsaw and Lublin, a key route for aid to Ukraine. A second incident on the same line is also suspected to be sabotage. Authorities have collected evidence from security cameras to identify the perpetrators. Poland has faced previous attacks, including parcel bombs and hybrid threats, which it attributes to Russian intelligence. Officials stressed that anyone involved will be found and prosecuted, calling the act shameful and highlighting the psychological intent to intimidate Poland. over its support for Ukraine. Dr. Kochar joins us once again. Of course, Russian espionage and hybrid warfare has become prominent in Eastern Europe. Poland, of course, a NATO country. What are your thoughts on these, of course, reported incidents of sabotage, alleged incidents of sabotage is how I'll put it, by Russian intelligence inside NATO territory here, Dr. Kochar?
You see, these are very important forms of hybrid warfare, and they are a part of the overall strategy or the overall campaign of the Russians. You see this rail line, which is a Warsaw-Ukraine route, is a likely important lifeline for the logistics into Ukraine. So if Russia wants to hamper the movement of logistics or any kind of assistance from the Western countries, which is possibly coming through the Poland route, it is going to disrupt this potentially military, economic, and it is bound to have a political impact. This is what the statement which is emanating from the Polish leader. So this incident actually, if you try to analyze, it fits into a broader hybrid warfare pattern. Sabotage and clandestine actors have been used earlier also in various campaigns, and this is not the first time they have been used in Poland by the Russians. It has been done earlier also. And one important aspect is that Ukrainian people have been used to do the sabotage, so that the culpability of this kind of action does not come on the Russians, because how are you going to prove, or how are you going to tell the world community that it is the Russians' design who have tried to do this sabotage? And therefore, from the strategic point of view, if I actually look from the logistics point of view, these are very, very important decisions to be taken by a country, especially in wartime, for movement of supplies, humanitarian aid, or even the weapon deliveries. So, if you discuss the key line, like the Poland and Ukraine, it can slow down the aid, and it can also impact the Ukraine battle. So I think that let us wait and watch how Poland wants to escalate this issue, because Poland can escalate this issue also, and Poland can take it up as an act against the sovereign territory of its own country, or it can be an act of war also. So let us see how Poland is going to aggravate this issue, because culpability on the Russians will be difficult to prove.
Yes, Dr. Kochar, thank you very much for joining us here on NewsX World. It's a pleasure to hear your opinion, as always. We now move on to our final European update, and Germany's Foreign Minister Johann Wadephul urged Serbia to choose between joining the European Union or continuing its mixed signals by maintaining close ties with Moscow. Serbia, which has not sanctioned Russia over its invasion of Ukraine, faces growing pressure from Brussels and Washington. Wadephul emphasised that Serbia must align with European, foreign and security policies or risk damaging its EU aspirations. Serbian Foreign Minister Marko Đurić reiterated Serbia's commitment to EU membership, but highlighted the need for reforms. The visit comes amid an energy crisis, with Serbia's oil refinery facing shortages due to US sanctions on Russian-owned firms. Wadephul also addressed concerns over police violence against anti-government protesters, while Đurić acknowledged the potential challenges Serbia has faced. We turn next to the Middle East, and Israel's National Rescue Service has confirmed that one Israeli citizen was killed and 3 others were wounded in a violent attack at a West Bank intersection. According to Israeli officials, the assault involved both a vehicle ramming and a stabbing and unfolded at a busy junction located south of Jerusalem, an area that has witnessed frequent flashpoints of tension in recent months. The Israel Defense Forces stated that the attacker used a vehicle to ram into pedestrians near the intersection before exiting and carrying out a knife assault, while the security personnel at the scene responded quickly, neutralizing the assailant. Emergency medical teams from Magen David Adom reported 3 injured individuals were treated at the scene and subsequently transported to nearby hospitals for further medical care. Their conditions have not yet been publicly disclosed. Joining us now is Ross Feingold. He is a political analyst and he joins us live from Taipei in Taiwan. Ross, thank you very much for joining us. Ross, of course, a tragic situation in the Palestinian territory of the West Bank, seeing one Israeli citizen killed. We know so far possible stabbing there. Your thoughts in how the Israeli forces might respond to this? Of course, we've seen violence escalate in the West Bank, but a situation like this is rather rare.
The reality is, throughout the period of the war in Gaza since October 2023, so over 2 years from now, Israel has also engaged in a heightened tempo of security-related actions in the West Bank as well. And that's resulted in a lot of Palestinian deaths, but it's also resulted in terrorist attacks against Israeli Jews. And this is what people call the cycle of violence, and it is a reality of the West Bank. Now, the important thing to keep in mind here, frankly, from a political perspective, is this only hardens Israeli opinions. You know, the Israeli public is not keen to negotiate a 2-state solution at the moment because they see an incompetent and corrupt Palestinian Authority governing parts of the West Bank. They see people in the West Bank, Palestinians, who are still willing to resort to violence. And the Israeli public, at least a majority at the moment, are taking the view that now is simply not the time to negotiate a 2-state solution. And they continue to put into power these right-of-center governments that are adamantly against a 2-state solution. So as long as the cycle of violence continues, unfortunately, it really makes it unlikely that the Israeli public is going to support a 2-state solution anytime soon.
And of course, Ross, the situation in the West Bank does remain particularly tense. In the past month, for example, we've seen over 200 instances of settler violence. If you don't mind, Ross, would you? And we don't. And apologies, reiterate to the viewers that we don't know who this Israeli is who has been killed in the attack. Ross, if you don't mind giving the audience a bit of a fill-in about the contentious situation in the Palestinian territory of the occupied West Bank and why there has been so much heightened violence there.
Well, again, part of this heightened violence is as a result of the heightened tempo of Israeli security forces activity in the West Bank after the war in Gaza began. The Israeli security forces are taking action against terrorist cells, and frankly, terrorist cells do exist. Another thing that does invite retaliatory violence are these attacks by the West Bank settlers. And there's really no excuse for this. The action by the Israeli settlers who raid Palestinian villages and damage Palestinian property, that's completely uncalled for, and the Israeli government should do more to stop that and frankly to prosecute the perpetrators of that. It's not helping the situation at all. So there are a number of factors that contribute to this cycle of violence. One of them is terrorist activities by Palestinians. Another one is settler violence by Israeli Jews. And it just leads to a continued cycle of violence.
Yes, Ross, thank you very much. Do stay with us. as we move over to the Indo-Pacific region. And Taiwan has said that it has detained a Chinese citizen on espionage charges after dismantling a scheme to lure both active and retired military personnel into gathering classified information. Democratically governed Taiwan, which China views as its territory, has complained that Beijing has stepped up its spying efforts on the island, including in the presidential office, and has reportedly taken forceful measures to try and stop it. The Justice Ministry's Investigation Bureau said that the Chinese citizen detained has a Hong Kong residency. As per reports, he has been identified by only the family name Ding. The official statement reads that he acted under the instructions of the Chinese military to collect classified information. Ding has not been detained alone, but with 6 others whose nationalities have not been revealed yet. In a separate statement, Taiwan's Defense Ministry said that 2 servicing officers have been indicted as part of the same probe as well. Ross Feingold joins us once again to discuss these developments coming out of Taiwan. Ross, the level of espionage currently conducted by the Chinese government inside the self-governed island of Taiwan, what is the extent of it?
It's tremendous, and these kinds of cases, the announcement of charges against currently serving military officers, intelligence officers, retired military officers, this happens very frequently, unfortunately.
Okay, we have some audio issues there. I do apologize. We are covering this ongoing situation in Taiwan. Ross Feingold joins us once again. We have your network back, Ross. Thank you. Apologies. We're talking about the extent of Chinese espionage on the self-governed island of Taiwan.
Yes, it's very common. Unfortunately, the Chinese have penetrated the military, the intelligence agencies. Retired military officers have been arrested for providing information to China. It's a very serious and ongoing problem. The authorities are trying to do more. They're trying to be more aggressive about finding these security breaches and people who are passing information to China. Unfortunately, the problem is so pervasive that they're constantly finding new cases to bring.
Yes, and Ross, of course, China sees Taiwan as its own territory. Does Taiwan have the ability to prosecute, detain Chinese officials as a self-governed island does? And what will Beijing's reaction be to Taiwan arresting someone it says is a Chinese spy?
If the person is physically in Taiwan and the authorities here in Taiwan are able to detain him, then the Taiwanese authorities will do just that, and they will bring charges. And of course, China will complain, and China will say it's completely false. But if the person is physically here in Taiwan, then the authorities will try to prosecute him. On the other hand, there was a prominent case just a few years ago where the authorities here in Taiwan brought charges against a person from Hong Kong, as well as his wife, for similar activity working for the Chinese government. And actually, the prosecution failed. The people were acquitted of all charges by the Taiwan court. So there's a mixed history here as far as the Taiwan authorities being able to successfully prosecute these cases.
Ross Feingold, thank you as always. It's always a pleasure to hear you here on NewsX World. Thank you for joining us. Well, that's all that we have time for this hour, but keep watching NewsX World for more international news updates.